can understand people deeply and still feel strangely alone with them. You notice the pauses, the tension behind simple words, the emotions people don't say out loud. And from the outside, that kind of awareness can look like connection. But sometimes it creates the opposite. Because the more you feel beneath the surface, the harder it becomes to fully rest inside a moment with someone. Instead of simply being there, you start reading everything that's happening. And slowly, something begins to shift. You're still with people, but not in the same way. You notice it in small, ordinary moments, in conversations where everything sounds normal, but something underneath doesn't feel right. You hear what's being said, but you also sense what's being held back. A hesitation, a shift in tone that lingers just a little longer than it should. And without trying to, you start holding both at the same time. What is said and what is actually there. And the more you notice, the harder it becomes to stay fully inside the interaction. Because part of your attention is no longer fully present. It's observing, while the moment is still happening. At first, it doesn't feel like something important. You just start leaving certain interactions a little more drained than before. Not because anything went wrong, but because of how much you were holding at once. You weren't just in the moment. You were processing it constantly, trying to make sense of what was said, what was meant, and what was left underneath it. And over time, that begins to change how connection feels. What used to be natural starts to require effort. What used to feel light starts to feel like something you have to carry. So without noticing it, you begin to pull back just a little. You say less. You stay more contained. Not because you don't care, but because being open in that way starts to feel like too much to hold. After a while, it's not just about feeling drained. It starts to feel like you don't fully belong in the same moments anymore. Conversations continue, but something in you feels slightly apart from them. Not because people are distant, but because you're aware of what isn't being acknowledged. You sense what's avoided, what stays unspoken, and that creates a quiet kind of distance, because part of you is meeting something deeper, while the moment stays on the surface. So even when you're with people, you don't feel fully inside the experience. You're there, but not fully resting in it. And that's a kind of loneliness that's hard to explain, because nothing is clearly wrong, but something never feels completely right. And at some point, you start turning that awareness back onto yourself. You wonder if the distance you feel has something to do with you. If maybe you're the one making things heavier than they need to be. You question what you feel. You second guess what you notice. And part of you starts to pull back even more. You try to quiet something that doesn't really turn off, because it would be easier to just experience things the way everyone else seems to, without reading into everything, without feeling so much beneath the surface. But no matter how much you try, that level of awareness doesn't disappear. But this isn't something wrong with you. You're noticing things that are actually there. Subtle shifts, unspoken tension, and your mind tries to make sense of it. But awareness on its own doesn't come with a way to process what you see. So instead of clarity, it can turn into overload. Not because you're broken, but because you're perceiving more than you've learned how to hold. The real difficulty isn't awareness itself. It's what happens when you see more than you can process and feel more than you can stay with. Because awareness doesn't always create connection. Sometimes it interrupts it. You step slightly outside the moment to understand it. And that distance changes how you relate to everything. And over time, it creates a quiet separation between you and the life you're trying to be part of. So the answer isn't to become less aware. It's to learn how to stay inside an experience without needing to analyze it in real time. To let a moment unfold without stepping back to understand it. Because connection doesn't come from understanding everything. It comes from being present enough to remain in it. And maybe that's why it feels lonely sometimes. Not because you don't care about people, but because you feel more than most spaces can hold. So the distance you feel isn't a failure to connect. It's what happens when awareness grows faster than your ability to stay inside the moment. And that doesn't mean you need to become less of who you are. It just means there's another layer to learn. Not how to see more, but how to stay present without losing yourself in what you see. If this resonates with you, you're not alone in this.